Hey everyone, and welcome to Money with Soul. My name is Ammie, and I'm your host. And I'm excited to have another couch conversation around money with soul. And today we're going to jump into our second quadrant on the alignment quiz, which is aspirational, which is high awareness. And well, the reason why we want to go through some of these is, this conversation around money and just changing that, because we often think about money as an outcome in our life and that it sets the tone for what our lifestyle will be. But the purpose of this alignment quiz is to see where we are in relation to where we're sitting in our alignment to what we call the money type, or into our value system. And I'm so passionate about changing the conversation around money, because I think people are waking up to not looking at money as the determinant of value or wealth, but looking at lifestyle. And money is really a vibration that reflects energy, money energy in our life. And so that can give us freedom. And when we think about financial freedom, I think we've all been defined as financial freedom is not having to work. There's a lot of like old ways of thinking about financial freedom, having investments that generate enough income to not have to work. As an example, that means that we're financially free, but it also binds us to this idea that work is not being free. And as part of our being as humans, we're evolving, and we have a service to the community and to the world. And so that definition almost automatically binds us to something being the stick of what will create freedom. And I'd like to bring that conversation back to a more present definition of freedom is a feeling. It's a decision that we make, but it's one that we make with conscious decision. It's a conscious decision, and we can be free and we can feel free in our life, even if we are working, even when we have little children, even when we have all of this service. It's a creating a space in our life that feels free. And our money type quiz helps to identify what is really freedom for me. So the freedom that I have might be very different to the freedom that someone else has. For me, financial freedom is being able to make decisions. It's creating space to have time with my kids. It's flexibility. Freedom in terms of not being able having to work is something that is great. But in terms of my soul and my freedom, I would always have work as something that's important to me. Being able to contribute and create value in the world is something that's important to me. And I remember, intending to have all this time off when I had my kids. And, you get to about 3 or 4 months in, and it's not to say that being at home with your children isn't a really important value, but I wanted to create flexibility for me so that I could have the kids home and that I could work. And that was really important, because I feel like having work and having something creativity is a really strong value for me as a person, and it serves my freedom. But I felt that being able to do that with the kids is something that we created. And so that was a definition of freedom that is important for me right now. And so that's why it's so important for us to change the paradigm around money and wealth and creation, so that we can feel the freedom of making decisions that have alignment, and we can actually take action without having the paralysis around what's really important. So the first thing is knowing what's important, and what does financial freedom look like today and in the future. So that's always evolving. It doesn't need to be set in stone. But what's important in freedom lifestyle today is that traveling around in a caravan and working on the road, is that having the freedom to purchase things that serve the family, like purchase experiences or travel, once a year, on a cruise or something. Freedom doesn't have to be the same. So defining what freedom looks like is important. And the whole purpose of the soul money map is to find that identity of financial freedom in today, which freedom could also be freedom from stress. Like that's a big one. Freedom from the stress of what managing money is. Knowing and having the ability to manage money is freeing. And I know for myself, it's really powerful to have the tools to be able to see and manage money in a more creative way. And, we come back to that sacred surplus being the energy of abundance and the energy of prosperity and the energy of creativity. But some of us don't even know if we're in that place. And so there's so many different layers of money and awareness, and bringing in this, philosophical, this ability to see it from a different place can also free us from the binds of our money story. And this next quadrant is one of the ones that I sit in the most, because I'm always aspirational. I'm always been someone, and it's something that I've worked on a lot, and I've come a long way, but that it's always something that I think it's very easy for me to go into the future trip and to create new ideas and to go forward and think about where I want to be in the future. And it really is about, that we also need to create action. So action is what the universe responds to. And I was listening to, if anyone is interested in some really cool content, Alan Watts is one of the, he's a philosophy teacher that does all these talks that I've really resonated with, because he's really awesome in just getting down to what is really freeing for ourselves. First, we must free ourselves before we can free our world. And we must free ourselves from what those limitations that we put on ourselves, because they're the ones that are going to stop us from achieving what is really important to us. And that is part of what being human is. But he was talking about, the universe doesn't favor the good. The good, we talk about being a valuable, good human, but it doesn't always mean the universe is responding to that. And in this aspirational quadrant, it's like, we are really good at knowing what we want, but we're not maybe so good at taking the consistent and repetitive actions to do that. And this is something that has been my biggest practice over the last, say, 12 to 18 months is, small, steady actions towards your goals is better than no action. Because we can talk about the problem I often have in this, in this aspirational, one of the biggest problems is we'd rather start over than doing that consistent action. And we often, you'll feel the sabotage the sabotage of something because we don't feel comfortable potentially receiving. And so there's this inner pressure and tension that creates this energetic conflict. And when Alan Watts was talking about, the universe doesn't favor the good, it's from a place of the universe will favor the clear. So when you've got a conflict going on in your energy, it's like you want this, but you don't believe you're worthy, or you want this, but there's this sense of, oh, it's not going to happen. And so there's this energetic conflict within that vibrationally keeps mirroring back to you, whether it's sabotage or whether it's, you might get another idea and you'll jump onto that instead of really just seeing something through, or maybe it's you'll sabotage your wealth creation through impulsive spending. Like from a cash flow perspective, that could be one of the things. And this conviction that we have comes from the decision that we are worthy, but that we also are supported in the universe when we do what we're meant to be doing. And that's, this belief, I do believe that we're here with for a reason. And we know that reason. It doesn't mean that the expression of that might not change, but we definitely have the barometer internally of whether something's in alignment or something's not. And then when we know that and we do the awareness exercise and we see, okay, this is what's really important to me, this aspirational, what's important in this aspirational quadrant is to actually get small, actionable habits that can really help us to take the small steps and just continue to come and anchor back into what's important and what is my purpose and what am I here to achieve. So, one of the things that I encourage in this space, which has really been helpful to me, is an accountability buddy. And for me, it's more about taking those actions where I'm not comfortable, because things cannot sometimes feel comfortable when they're new. Putting yourself out on a podcast or sharing yourself in your business in a way that might not be familiar or what you're used to, it might not feel comfortable and it's going to feel scary. But if we can just take little steps towards that, then that's going to support it. So knowing your habits that will support you in what's important, getting an accountability buddy, revisiting your goals and your values. So revisiting what it is you're here to do or what you're creating, really important. And I think that if it's coming from a place of your cash flow, so if there is this aspirational cash flow in this cash flow space, if you don't have the structure there yet, that's something that can really help when things are not be when things might go up and down. So there might be lots of money and then there's not a lot, and that sort of backwards and forwards into lack and into abundant lack and energetic abundance, and that can sort of feel where cash flow might be in this place. And so getting your structures around your soul money, your soul flow is important. But then the other side of this aspirational is, because it's not about not knowing what's important, it's more about the support mechanisms to take action in that place, is to do the work around your money story and see if there's things that are under the bonnet in terms of what you believe. Because the subconscious will drive 95% of our life. And so if we're not aware of what's really driving, and it's the worldview, so think about your belief and your money story is like the goggles that you're putting on, that you're looking out from. And it doesn't matter where you go, what experiences you have, if you're wearing those goggles, that's what you're going to see through. And that's the beliefs that we have. So to take those goggles off, it's important for us to do some awareness around what are some of those subconscious beliefs. And that's the money story work that we do. But even if it's just in cash flow, if there's some of that active, doing a spending fast is also another thing that we do in our Soul Money Map course, which is around, just like you would if you were going to do a fast, it's about just taking away some of that excess and just starting to sit with that. So it's a really cool exercise to sort of see where you're being impulsive and see where you're over spending, or just seeing your habits. Really, it's something that we do. And I've talked really fast today, and really, I don't know why, but it's something that I feel is it's a good topic to bring us back to, and it's one that doesn't always just apply to the energy of money. It can also apply to the energy of exercise and looking after your body. It's all things that we sit in, and I think that, as I've seen, one area of your life you might be really good, and the other, or might really feel like you're in control, and then other areas might reflect differently. But I think a lot of the time we sort of sit in an energetic vibration across all areas. And so whilst there might be different triggers and different things going on in one, sometimes it's sort of like spills over into other areas of our life. And I hope that this chat is interesting and just dives a little bit more into some of the methodologies of the soul money with soul, and how we change that. We change our paradigm of money and how we think about it, because I think we're moving into a new age, and we need to have the tools to help us bridge where we've come from into how do we operate in this new world, where the the opportunity and the abundance is endless, but it's important for us to not get lost in these ideals, and to really be practical and take the steps, however small, into making them manifest into our world. So it's all well and good to have great ideas and do all these things in on paper, but it's how do we bring them into our real world, into our world that we operate in. And that's part of what this alignment quiz does, is give you those tools. I'm going to leave it there, and I'm looking forward to, next week we're going to dive into the third quadrant, and which is functional. So let's do that next week. Have an awesome week, and we'll talk soon.